This past weekend was the annual Koch brothers summit in Colorado Springs, where some of the richest people in the history of our planet come together to complain to each other about how hard they have it. But there's an interesting angle to this particular year's meeting in what these huge donors and the candidates that were there, what are they concerned about? What is their strategy going forward for the next year? And so we're gonna break that down. By the way, the price for admission to this retreat was a promise to give at least $100,000 to the Koch's broad policy and political network. And by the way, there were at least 18 elected officials on hand. So far, I don't know that their names have been made public, certainly not all of them. But let's talk about some of the concerns here. The president for Americans for Prosperity said, there is urgency. We believe we have a window of about 12 months to get as much of it, their policy objectives, accomplished as possible before the 2018 elections grind policy to a halt. Because, and that's totally true, we are almost always having elections here. You have a few days where we're not. And so they want to get their major priority, their policy objectives done at that point. And they have specifically cited repealing the Obamacare, which is just code for give us our gigantic tax breaks, and major tax reform, which is barely code for give us our gigantic tax breaks. So basically they have one goal, it is gigantic tax breaks. It just comes in a couple of different flavors. And we've got some quotes from donors that we'll get to.
And those quotes are amazing. So let me just give it a little extra context here. So first of all, I debated at Oxford with the person who won the Citizens United case, and he made the claim like, oh, this is the progressives who don't want you to have money in politics. By the way, it's not just progressives. A lot of conservatives hate the crony capitalism that comes out of that system. They say, oh, they're trying to deny you a voice, the average American. You had to pay at least $100,000 to get in the door of this meeting.
No, you just have to pledge to give it.
Oh, okay.
I pledge that every day, I don't care.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they take notes on who delivered on that pledge.
That's probably true.
So $100,000 to even begin to affect these policymakers. And you would think that they would at least have the decency to not admit that they're there. But 18 of them go there and they raise their hand and they say, oh yeah, sure, I came here for the bribes. And these are the top bribe givers in the country. Yeah. So these are legalized bribes now. So we made the system inherently corrupt. If you're worried about the swamp, this is what created the swamp. If you're worried about the corruption of big government, who do you think corrupted them? These guys, not illegal immigrants who don't have a dime to their name. Yeah. It's guys like this. And then Americans for Prosperity is a Koch brothers group. So Tim Phillips is the spokesperson for it, but it is funded by the Koch brothers, who have about $80 billion between them. So any tax break fundamentally affects them. So this group overall, it affects billions of dollars per year. So the Koch brothers in total, through this group, plan to spend about $300 to $400 million to begin with in this election. That's just warming up.
A midterm election.
On a midterm election, okay? And you think, oh my God, they're bribing people or just speaking to people to the tune of $300 to $400 million. But there are multi-billion-dollar ramifications here. And why healthcare reform and tax reform? Because healthcare reform, as John pointed out, has $600 to $800 billion of tax cuts for the rich, and tax reform is nothing but tax cuts for the rich. So they'll sprinkle in a couple of tax cuts for the middle class and go, oh, look at us, are we not merciful, right? But that's the whole intent of this thing. Now, they're getting even more brazen.
Yeah, and by the way, the $300 to $400 million, that's a significant, you could, just them two, could fund a significant portion of all of the Republican House races in this coming cycle, just by themselves if they wanted to. Also, if you have $300 to $400 million to spend on elections, you don't need to be fighting for more tax breaks. You could spend your $300 to $400 million. Think about what else you could spend that on.
Yeah, just, dude, go on a yacht, man. Buy
a yacht? You're thinking way too small. Build a private spaceship and tour Venus.
Stop, like.
Okay, maybe not for $300 million.
Okay, but stop bribing our politicians and go enjoy life. You have $80 billion. But no, must have more tax cuts. One last piece of context before we get to the devastating quotes. It's not just that the midterm elections are coming. I think the Koch brothers are also thinking, we don't know how long this Trump guy's gonna last. And while he's still popular with the Republicans, it looks like on the tax front, he'll give us anything we want. Yeah. Take it now. All right, now
so here's some of those quotes. Texas-based donor Doug Deason has already informed a handful of congressional Republicans that the quote Dallas piggy bank is closed until he sees more action. That quote by itself should lead to comprehensive campaign finance reform, I think. How are they allowed to talk like that? But they did. He said, I said, no, I'm not going to the donating to some candidates because we're closing the checkbook until you get some things done. Noting that he has personally rallied nearly 24 major Texas donors. We're talking about gigantic sums of money there. He said, get Obamacare repealed and replaced, get tax reform passed, get it done, and we'll open it back up. That is your proof of corruption right there. He just made your whole case.
They used to talk about the pigs at the trough. You know, the politicians who are so corrupt and they're feeding at the trough of corruption. Here, one of the guys who corrupted them goes, yeah, I've got a piggy bank.
Yeah, he's the one saying it now.
That's right. And here, little boy, here's your trough. No, wait, I'm taking it away until you give me every tax cut that I want. When they get those millions of dollars, those politicians, I mean, it's true of Democrats and Republicans. In this case, it is totally the Republicans. They're all voting for this, and they're going over the top on the tax cuts. But certainly, it has been Democrats in the past, and it'll be some Democrats on the tax reform bill, right? And then the mainstream media and the Democrats and the Republicans will say, oh, are you saying that these honorable gentlemen and ladies have been corrupted? Yes, that's what we're saying.
He's saying it.
Yes, the guy who corrupted him is bragging about it. And by the way, yes, one of the guys that we know was there, and this is wonderful irony, is Dave Brat. The reason it's irony is because Dave Brat is a Republican in Virginia who ran a populist campaign against the bankers in Virginia to unseat Eric Cantor, a historic upset of the sitting House Majority Leader, okay? Because he was a populist, he was for the little guy. And all of a sudden, here he is with the billionaires. And he says, quote, we don't get taxes through, we're all going home, pack the bags. Now, wait a minute, you're telling me that you're the guys who voted for you because they hated the big banks in rural Virginia? Now, all of a sudden, if you don't pass billions of dollars in tax cuts for the rich, are gonna send you home? No, that's not what he's referring to. He's referring to the donors.
Yeah.
If we don't give them what they paid for, they're gonna send us all home and replace us with even more compliant, corrupt politicians.
Well, then Dave Brat, support campaign finance reform to take that weapon away from them.
But why would he? He's already entered the trough, and since he's at the trough with the people who paid at least $100,000 to get there, those donors, the top donors in the world. Now Dave Brat thinks, you idiots, you suckers, I tricked you.
Yeah.
I told you that I was for you, and I immediately went to the richest people in the country, and I took their legalized bribes, and from now on, all I'll do is work for them. Yeah. So now you know how this game is played. By the way, if you actually want reform, Wolf-PAC.com. You gotta get money out of politics and you gotta do it in an amendment. If you don't, this will never end and they will rob you to the end of time. Go do whatever you can, be an American, get our democracy back. Get money out of politics no matter what you do. Volunteer, spend your time, donate, do whatever you need to do, get involved, be an American. Wolf-PAC.com. Otherwise, these are our new lords that rule over us. Young Turks now has over 6 billion lifetime views. You know who did that? You did that. We're now larger than CNN, ABC, you name a news network online, we're larger than them. And you built all that as everyone scoffed and didn't believe. And here we are, guys, thanks to you. Build independent media together with us at tytnetwork.com/join.